Hi boys and girls, welcome to Miss Bra's Science channel again. Okay, today we are going to recap on chapter called Reproduction in Flowering Plants. Now, what can you recall about reproduction in flowering plants? We know that, it starts off in the plant kingdom. So in the plant kingdom, it's divided into two parts. Probably you can try to guess, what are the two parts? Okay, so in the plant kingdom, we have flowering plants and we have non-flowering plants. Now, let us focus more on flowering plants first. What have we learned so far about flowering plants? Okay, we have learned that flowering plant produce flowers. It reproduces by seeds. We also learned about parts of flowering plants. We also learned about the functions. And we also learn about the processes. Now, maybe you can take a minute or so to think for a while what are the processes that we have learned so far. I'm very sure all of you remember, right? Okay, we have pollination, we have fertilization, and we have germination. Now, let us take a look at parts of a flower. Now, parts of a flower, we have male parts and female parts. Now, can you guess how many parts are there in the male parts and in the female parts? I'm very sure all of you guessed it correctly. Okay, male parts, it consists of 2 parts, while female consists of 4 parts. Now, let us take a look at the male parts. Now, male parts, what are the 2 male parts that we have learned? Okay, we have learned anther, and also we have learned about filament. Now, you must remember, okay, male parts, there are 2, which is anther and filament. Now, let us take a look at the right hand side, okay, of the diagram here, the one that I've circled below here, okay, it's the anther, okay, the one that I've circled, okay, and then look at the bottom one, the one that looks like a stalk, okay, that actually is holding the anther. It's called the filament. Now, now all of you, okay, take a closer look. What is covering the anther? Okay, the one that's covering the anther is known as the pollen grains. Now, anther produces pollen grain. Pollen grains consist of male reproductive cells. Okay, you need to remember. Now, let us take a look at female parts. There are 4 parts, right? Now, the first one is stigma, and then we have style. Now, let me show you, okay? You can see right here, okay, this is the stigma, okay? And the one that's connecting the stigma is the style. Okay, so you can see here so far, right? Okay, now next, we have the ovary, okay? The one that I'm showing to you is the ovary, okay? Can you see that? Okay, now the one that is inside the ovary is the ovules. Can you see that? Okay, this is the ovules. Now, let us recap on the functions. Since we have learned about the parts, now let us recap on the functions of a flowering plant, okay? Now, anther. What is the function of the anther? Okay, the function of the anther is to produce pollen grains. And what is the function of the filament? Okay, the function of the filament is, okay, it is a stalk, okay, that holds the anther. Now, how about stigma? Okay, a stigma is a sticky surface, okay, to help trap pollen. Okay, the keyword here is to trap pollen. How about style? Okay, we remember, style is a tube-like structure that joins the stigma to the ovary. Okay, must remember this keyword, tube-like structure. How about the ovary? Must remember, number 1, okay, it protects the ovule. Number 2, it becomes fruit after fertilization. How about ovules? ovule becomes seeds after fertilization. Now, during exam, it can be a bit confusing. You cannot remember. Ovary, ovules. Ovary, does it produce seeds or does it produce fruits? Or ovule, does it produce seeds or does it produce fruits? Now, let me teach you a trick, okay? Look at ovary. It consists of the letter R. Now, take a look. Fruit also consists of the letter R. How about ovules? Ovules has the letter E and seeds has the letter E. So you can remember easily. Ovary produce or become fruits after fertilization and ovules become seeds after fertilization. Can you see the trick? Now, let us talk about the process called pollination. Now, what is pollination? Okay, pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. Now, the key word here is transfer. Transfer of what? Transfer of pollen grains. Pollen grains from anther to stigma. Of what? Of a flower. So this is what we call pollination. Now, let us take a look. Okay, we have the anther and we have the stigma. So what happened is that, okay, the anther produces pollen grain, right? So the pollen grain is being transferred to the stigma. Can you see that? Now, there are two types of pollination. Can you guess what it is? I'm very sure all of you guessed it right. Okay, we have self-pollination and we have cross-pollination. Now, let us take a look at self-pollination. What is self-pollination? Now, self-pollination is when the pollen grains from the anther land on the stigma of the same plant. The key word here is same plant. Okay, now let us take a look at what is cross-pollination. Now, cross-pollination is when pollen grains from the anther land on the stigma from another plant. Can you see the difference, boys and girls? Now, let us go through what is fertilization. Okay, fertilization is the process when a male reproductive cells fuses with a female reproductive cells, or known as the egg cells. Fuses here is, in a simpler term, is meet. Okay, when it meets. Okay, so when the male reproductive cells meets the female reproductive cells, okay, this is what we call fertilization. Now, let me tell you in details, okay? Now, during pollination, pollen grain are transferred to the stigma. Can you see here? The picture here shows a stigma. Okay? So, the small dots here are actually the pollen grains. Now, can you see that? Now, each pollen grain will produce pollen tubes. Can you see that? This is when the pollen grain is at the top of the stigma. So, when fertilization takes place is that, what happens is that each pollen grain will actually produce a pollen tube. Can you see here? The pollen tube. Okay? And the male reproductive cells are found inside the tip of the pollen. Okay? At the tip of pollen is where the male reproductive cells are. Now, the pollen tube enters the ovule that contains an egg. So, once it enters, okay, this is what we call fertilization. Now, germination. What is germination? Okay, germination is the process whereby seeds start to develop into young plants. Now, in order for seeds to germinate, it needs to have the three favorable conditions. It needs to have the three wows. Do you remember what are the three wows? Most of you must be wondering, wow, what does it mean? Okay, wow means W stands for water, O stands for oxygen, and W stands for warm. So can you see? W-O-W, wow. Now, let me describe to you the process of germination. Step 1, okay, during germination, the root appear first. Step 2, then the shoot will appear. Then number 3, When the first leaf of the shoot open, the young plant can carry out photosynthesis because it contains green leaves, right? So far we have went through processes on pollination, fertilization and germination. Now all of you must be wondering, how come Miss Bus never talk about seed dispersal? Sorry. So now I'm going to talk to you about seed dispersal. Why plants disperse their seeds? Now, number 1 is to prevent overcrowding. Number 2 is to ensure continuity of its kind, meaning to ensure that they can grow more plants, right? Yes or no, boys and girls? Now, there are 4 types of dispersal method. We have wind, we have water, we have animals, and we have splitting. Now, let's take a look at wind. Here are the examples. We have Angsana, we have Lalang, we have Shaurya. Now, what are the characteristics? The characteristics are wing-like structure, small, and it must be light. Now, next, seed dispersal method through water. We have example right here, coconut and pong-pong. Now, what are the characteristics? It needs to have fibrous husk and must be able to float in water. Now, number 3, animals. Okay, for example, we have durian, we have guava, and we have tomato. Now, what are the characteristics? It must be sweet, must be juicy. And for animal, there's another type, okay? Examples are mimosa and love grass. Now, this type of seeds or this type of fruits needs to have hooks so that it's able to cling on to animals or onto humans, okay? Humans in this case is the socks that we are wearing. Now, let's take a look at splitting. What are the examples? We have African tulip, balsam plant, and now let us take a look at the characteristic. Okay, it must be able to dry up, and once it dries up, it's split open with explosive force. Now we have recapped everything that's in chapter 1, which is reproduction in flowering plants. I hope all of you understand what we have learned so far, and till the next video, keep on buzzing.